Hello, I'm Dale from Melbourne Piano Movers. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about regulation of a piano and what it means. Now we all know that pianos need to be tuned, and they need to be tuned regularly. And when a tuner does that with your piano, what they are doing is adjusting the tension in the strings via these tuning pins here. Now we all know that. What perhaps we don't know is almost as important as tuning a piano is the regulation of a piano. Now when we're talking about regulation, what that means is we're talking about how all the mechanisms of the hammers and dampers and keys, or let's call it by the industry name, the action of the piano, all the adjustments that there are in the action of the piano. The design of the action of a piano from one piano to another is usually very similar, even amongst different brands. It's the same kind of thing. Now I've got an action model here, and what you can see when I press the key is that there is a lot of things going on in here, a lot of springs and levers and all sorts of things that control the feel of the piano, even the sound of the piano, and the feedback that it gives you when you're playing. Now in here there are lots of adjustments that need to be carried out to have your piano performing as well as it should. And what we're going to talk about today is perhaps the simplest adjustment to perform, which is what's called lost motion. So with our action model here, what I've done is I've deliberately put the lost motion out of adjustment so that we can see what happens with the piano with some years of typical wear and tear. Now when I strike the key here, just at the start, see how we're getting a lot of movement here, but nothing's happening with the hammer. See all this slack here? And the jack here is trying to push the hammer butt, but there's some clearance. Nothing's happening. Now the way to adjust that is there's a capstan here, and this capstan is threaded. And if I screw this capstan out a little bit, we'll see we've still got some slack, so I'll screw it out a bit more. Ooh, the slack's just about gone now. You can see there's just a tiny little bit of movement there. Screw it out just a bit more, a little bit more. Now that sloppy's gone. As soon as I hit the key, it's starting to push the hammer immediately. Now what happens if we over adjust this? If I deliberately go too far, the hammer is sitting off its rest here. There's clearance in there, and the way to check if there's clearance is if I push down on the key here, you can see the hammer moving up the top. Now it shouldn't do that. That means I've over adjusted it. So I need to wind this capstan back in a little bit. Check that there's no slop. No slop. Push the key down. Check that the hammer's not moving. No, the hammer's not moving. So by pushing the key down and having no hammer movement, that tells me I haven't over adjusted it. By lightly touching the key and not having any slop here, that means I haven't under adjusted it. So that key now, in terms of lost motion at the capstan, is now correctly adjusted. To adjust the lost motion actually within the piano itself is really quite simple. Now there's two ways of doing it. You can do it by leaving all the keys in place and adjusting the capstans in here. The other way you can do it is to actually pull the keys out. Now I'm going to show you here. I'm lifting this key up off its pins, and now I can pull it out. Now that I've got that key out, I can turn these capstans in or out. Usually they have little holes in them, and that will allow you to get a very small screwdriver, for example. There are specific industry tools for it, but for you at home, a very small screwdriver in those holes will allow you to turn that capstan and rotate it in or out. So once you've adjusted it a little bit, we can put the key back in, back onto its pins, wiggling it around to get it in is quite normal. And now I can test the lost motion by very gently pressing on the front of the key here. There's no slop there. Pressing on the back of the key. That's good. The hammer's not moving. That means this lost motion is correctly adjusted in this key, and I can now move on to the other 87 keys. So it might take you a little while. For me, I'll usually have the radio on. 88 times doing that can take a little while. But it's very easy to do if you're handy with tools at home and you've got a bit of mechanical nous, then it's highly likely that you can perform this adjustment on your own. And if you're noticing in the keys that there's a lot of slop when you're playing, it could well be that the lost motion is your problem. It can make the feel of the piano all wrong, and it can give basically two clunks. One clunk is taking up the slack, and then the other one is the hammer actually moving. You don't want that first clunk that's taking up the slack, and you can feel it through the keys. So in your piano at home, if you're game, that's how you adjust lost motion. If you're not game, that's okay, don't do it. But that gives you a bit of an idea of one of the first things that a tuner will do when setting the regulation in your piano. There's a lot more things that they will do, but the very simplest of those is adjusting lost motion in the keys. I hope you've learnt a little bit today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Pop us an email, info@melbournepianomovers.com.au. I'd love to hear how your piano's going, and I hope you're having fun with it. Thank you.